Welcome to the InfoSec Insider podcast, brought to you by URM, the UK's leading information and cybersecurity specialists.
Hi, my name's Annie and I'm here today with Scott Lloyd, who's one of our senior consultants here at URM. Welcome to another episode of InfoSec Insider. So today, Scott and I are going to be talking about the certification process for ISO 27001. So Scott, my first question for you is, what are the must-have documents an organisation needs ready for their stage one audit? So I know there's a two-stage process, isn't it? So what's that stage one? What does that look like?
Yeah, that's right. There's the stage one and stage two. They have to be done within 6 months of each other. With 27001, there's quite a prescriptive list of what you've got to have. It doesn't have to be perfect. All the documents you produce at stage one just have to be there. They have to be kind of ongoing. So stage two will come along and they'll go through with a fine-tooth comb. But stage one, these just have to be there. And going through a bit of a list is you have to have the scope of your ISMS. It has to be sort of set or sort of. You should know what it's going to be. So that should be there. You need a policy, which is the InfoSec policy. That has to be sort of ongoing and started. Risk assessment and risk treatment processes need to be in place, as well as risk treatment and risk assessment methodology, like risk registers and that kind of stuff. You need evidence of competency. So you need people who are going to be managing the ISMS need to be competent, and anybody that's kind of fulfilling a role within the ISMS, that competency needs to be sort of there. But again, it needs to be started. It doesn't need to be completely populated. You also need internal audits, because internal audits have to be done and you need to start them. It doesn't have to be completely filled, but you need to have a process in place. You need to be sort of having a program. The diary needs to be filled where your auditors are going to go out and have a look at what your system's doing. You need evidence of monitoring and measuring. So that's in clause 9 as well. What are you looking at? Are you looking at the amount of time people click on a phishing exercise, that kind of thing? You monitor what you like, but you've got to have sort of the starting evidence of that. Management review. You don't need to have done one for stage one, but you need to be preparing for a management review. That's a meeting where the executive sponsor looks at how the ISMS is running and whether you're going to be fulfilling all your objectives, that kind of thing. And also nonconformities. Nonconformities, you need to have a system in place to handle something when it goes wrong. You need to say, oh, well, okay, that's not what we were expecting. We're expecting this, and how we're going to deal with it. That's literally those compulsory documents or compulsory bits of paperwork that you need in place, ready for when the auditor turns up.
Perfect. Thank you, Scott. So just to pick up on your point there about nonconformities, I know you've got sort of major and minor nonconformities. What's the difference between a major and a minor, and how do they affect certification?
Well, a major is known as a serious breakdown in a system or an activity that you're doing. It's not working at all. For instance, if your risk register is just not coming together, it's not fit for purpose, that's a major. And any major would stop you getting certified. It would delay, maybe more than is a better word, delay your certification. It's not saying that you can't get certified full stop. It's saying that area that you're working on will never work. A minor is a small gap, but be aware that if you have multiple minors in the same area, that can be upgraded to a major. And the third one you'll hear that auditors talk about is an OFI, an opportunity for improvement, and then not actionable, but it's considerable. You've got to go, that's a really good idea, and an auditor said that, so we should be considering all three. Obviously, majors are definitely to avoid. Minors, yeah, they're just gaps. So you've got to close those gaps, and you've got to have a set way to close those gaps. But you will be better for it as a system, as an organisation, once you've closed these gaps.
And how should organisations handle minor nonconformities so that they don't become major later on?
Yeah, this clause 10's got a bit of a guidance for you in the standard. Tells you you've got to look at the nonconformities, take action to correct it. So if there's, let's say you've sent an email or you've released some data to the wrong person, you've got to control that. You've got to say, right, how can we get around this? Maybe try and press the recall button or something along those lines. You've got a banner page at the bottom. But then you've got to look at registering it, look elsewhere amongst the company and say, could this happen again? Because it's that's one of the things it's telling you to do. And it could do. So you then decide whether you're going to take action. You're then going to decide, are you going to put in a second step? So if every time you send an email, somebody else approves it, maybe 2 person rule. What way are you going to control this? And then you put that in your paperwork. That could become part of your ISMS, part of your procedure or your process. And then you run with it. And then you have to record whether it works. So that's part of the non-conformity as well. You then go, well, that didn't work at all. We still had the same issues, or it did work, and it's really, really good. So all minors get recorded, and all minors get actioned or looked at individually to stop them becoming major. What also can become a major is if somebody raises a minor and you ignore it. If you don't do anything about it, the auditor's going to come along and go, you were issued this non-conformity 6 months ago, and you've done absolutely, you haven't even looked at it. And that can become a major non-conformity.
Thank you, Scott. So looking now to sort of the post-certification period, you mentioned the 3-year cycle. What's the main purpose of continual assessment visits? Because I know that's different to a certification or a recertification visit, isn't it? It's a sort of separate thing.
Yes. Stage 1, like we say, is a bit more of a look, see, what have you got? Have you got these things started? Stage 2 is like a mile wide and an inch deep. They look at absolutely everything, every clause, every control, and they're kind of trying to find gaps. They're trying to help you to make sure, trying to check that you've got nothing missing. So they'll certify you off the back of a stage 2, which is a mile wide. Then annually, then you get a visit, a CAV, Continual Assessment Visit. And the first year of your CAV, they will go deeper. It's no longer a mile wide. The scope of their audit is more narrowed and more concentrated, so they can go deeper, so they can go into the weeds and go, right, let's look at this process. What paperwork have you got? How is it done? Where's the evidence? Let me see one of your operators doing that. Let's see the results. What are you monitoring? What are you measuring? They can go really deep into it. That's what a continual assessment visit is. So you get one of these each year, sometimes 2, because if you're a big organization, you might be getting two of these visits to split it up so that they get to see everything. And then the year after, they're going to come again, but they're going to look at a different subset. They're going to it's going to be a deep dive again, but a different subset. And the 3rd year, if you're renewing, you get another stage 2. You go back to go into the mile wide, inch deep sort of philosophy for a renewal. So you get kind of 2 deep dives and then 1 overall sort of assessment every 3 years.
Perfect. Thanks, Scott. Just to wrap up, would you mind giving your insights on what the biggest misconceptions about certification are in your experience?
Well, there is a few, but the biggest one that I can't tend to say to people is just because you're certified doesn't mean that all of your risks are being covered. You're not safe just because you're certified. You've got to carry on you've got certified by adopting all of these processes and all of these actions to get you under control. You can't just sort of let them lapse the moment you've got the sort of tick in the box and go, yeah, we're certified, amazing, that's my job done. You've got to continue and chip away at your tasks, chip away at things. And also on the other hand is the supply chain. If you're looking at your supply chain and you're saying, oh, I want to hire somebody, a SaaS provider, for instance, they're certified to 27001. That's it. They're safe. They're not safe. They're like you. They're fighting their own battles, their own security issues. So you can't think that 27001 everyone's safe. The best thing about 27001 as compared to something like NIST is the external audit. Is somebody's coming along and checking your work. But I don't think anybody's ever safe in that regard. 27001 does a good job in doing so, though.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Scott. And for any of our listeners that want to read around this subject a bit, we've got a blog on our website, urmconsulting.com, and that is called ISO 27001, How Certification Works. So please go and give that a read, and thank you for listening today. If you've enjoyed this podcast, we would really appreciate it if you could spare a moment to leave a rating or review at ratethispodcast.com/InfoSec Insider. To listen to more episodes, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and Podbean.
Thank you for listening to URM's InfoSec Insider podcast. For more information, visit our website at urmconsulting.com.